Welcome to Talking Technology with NCBI Labs, where we believe that technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you are interested in the latest technology news, products, and innovations, then you've come to the right place.
So hello everybody, and you're very welcome along to another episode of Talking Technology with NCBI Live. So today we're on episode 14 since we've rebranded as Talking Technology. So hard to believe we're this far along, but there you go. So today I'm delighted to be joined here by JP Corcoran and Joe Lonergan. And in a while, we're going to be bringing on our guest, Óran O'Neill, who is going to talk to us today about the new improvements on the RTE player. So he's an audio description producer within the access services at RTE, which is, you well know, is Ireland's public broadcaster. So Óran will be telling us about his role as a sound engineer. He'll also tell us about the availability of audio description in the RTE television and inform us of several important accessibility improvements that were recently introduced to the RTE Player app. And so we'll also be discussing what are the most accessible streaming services with audio description. What's the best way to check if it's available and then enable it. And our guest Óran and the panel will share their views and recommendations. So that's all coming up in a short while. So we'll just welcome Óran. Actually, I see he's just joined us there now. So you're very welcome, Óran.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome, Óran.
Apologies, I'm late. I was on an EBU meeting and it ran on a little bit.
No problem at all. Everyone. You're more than welcome to the show. So, Óran, if we just begin with, I suppose, opening, just tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do in RTE.
Yeah, sure. How long have you got? So I've been in RTE for many years. Too long to almost remember, but most of that time I started in television sound, in television studios and outside broadcasts. So I was working on basically any program that we used to do in the studios or outside broadcasts, like the Late Late Show, or working in Crow Park at the weekend for when matches were on.
Yeah.
Studios like Today. It used to be Today Tonight when I started. Now it's prime time.
Wow.
But I started as a sound operator in TV sound and worked my way through then to be a sound engineer. So that's kind of the hierarchies. You kind of start as an operator. You're down on the floor, rigging, looking after music, looking after bands, and radio mics, etc. And then you progress up to live sound. So you're mixing the same shows that you would have been working on the studio floor. So once there was an opportunity then came up in 2000, and I joined the post-production audio department.
Yes.
So that was still mixing. I was still mixing sound on a day-to-day basis, but it was a little bit more controlled. So I was working on projects like Fair City, Prime Time, any of the religious kind of programs or the Irish programs. Mostly what you would have seen between, let's say, 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night. Sometimes it's a little bit hairy. Prime time in particular can be quite a hairy job to do on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because they usually do a late story, and they could be running into you at 9 o'clock or later for a 9:30 transmission. But in 2009, then I I began to lose my vision. I always had bad vision since I was born, but I kind of knew something was going wrong in around 2000, and I started going to consultants on that. And then in 2009, I was diagnosed with a rare form of RP, and that rendered me more or less totally blind by 2012, 2013, I think. So I still today look after the day-to-day running of the post-audio department. So I'm looking after bookings and scheduling and staff and sick leave and all that. But I was about 5 years ago asked by our head of media and content if I could look into audio description and how we could broadcast it on RTE Junior, because we weren't at that stage able. We had an RTE Junior channel, but because of funding issues, it wasn't the same. It wasn't installed to the same level as RTE1 and RTE2. So we didn't have at what was then the case, a live playout system for audio description. So I was asked to find a solution for RTE Junior. So I worked on that for a while, and then once we were able to do that and work out to do that, we then decided. I was then asked to produce more content for RTE programs, particularly Irish content. And this is something that the BAI wanted as well. So that's where I so my day-to-day role is kind of, about a third of post-production audio, and the rest is AD work. I just finished reviewing a film this morning that's going to be on the 30th of September, called Dark Lies the Island. So that's me kind of in a nutshell, so to speak.
Wow. So very, very exciting work and varied, I'd have to say, Óran. Just I suppose, just to go back there on something you said, the BAI, that's the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland, isn't it? Yeah, just for anyone listening in, I suppose.
Yeah, so the BAI, the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland, I think it's Ofcom in the UK, and it's the FCC in the US. But the BAI, they are responsible for setting targets for us for access services. So the access services that we produce include subtitling, Irish Sign Language, and then audio description. So I'm primarily involved in the audio description, and we have another team that's looking after subtitling and ISL. So the BAI each year, they set a target for subtitling, ISL, and audio description every year, and steadily it's been going up by 1% each year. So this year we have across the board a 9% target to reach on all the linear channels, RT1, RT2, and Junior. For the last few years, I'm kind of proud to say that on Junior, certainly we've exceeded that. We hit nearly 11% last year for audio described content. But more importantly, I suppose what we're doing now is we've just recently, within the last year, I think this month actually is their first anniversary, is we have some new audio describers that we brought in, we interviewed, and we trained them with a lovely woman in the UK called Veronica Hicks, and another gentleman called Andrew Piper. Veronica Hicks, you may have heard of Veronica. She, I suppose, is most famous for the audio description on The Crown. And she's also done like Black Mirror and Friends, and she's done lots. And she's somebody who actually not pushing her too much by or saying it, but she literally wrote the script, wrote the guidelines over 30 years on how to audio describe. She was asked by
she's a pioneer, I suppose.
She's absolutely a pioneer, and I'm involved with her at the moment because we're rewriting the guidelines with the European Blind Union. So I'm involved with her, but she was a great resource to have because and herself and Andrew, because they really believe in kind of high quality output, which is not always the case with some audio described content that you might hear. So we have a panel of five audio describers at the moment, and they are responsible. Well, I'm responsible for assigning what content we will audio describe, who will do it, who will audio describe it, whether it be male or female, and they will then go away and script the AD, and they usually then send me a recording of their script and also of a in text version as well, and I'll go through that script and listen to the recording and make some changes if they need to be made, and then they will go into studio, into one of our AD suites, and record the AD ready for transmission.
Wow. So okay, so just give us a brief description then of how audio description itself, how it's worked, and how it's how it's deployed, and obviously why it's so important.
Well, there are many ways. I suppose there are really two ways to transmit audio description. One is, as I mentioned briefly, is during live playback. So we still do that to a small extent, but very small extent. Most of our content is embedded, which I'll go on to in a minute. But basically, what used to happen, and still does across some parts of Europe, but less and less, is that the audio describer would work on a piece of software, audio description software, and script away wherever there are gaps in the media that they're looking at. So if they discover that there's a 2 or 3 second or longer gap to where they can describe what's going on or what action is about to take place, then they will write some audio description relevant to that that piece, that segment. But it needs to be relevant for a start. Rather than just saying let's just audio describe something, which some audio describers do. My view would be it needs to be absolutely relevant. So if there's no point in saying, for example, somebody he picks up the phone, which I've kind of heard in some other content. So it's relevant to maybe what the character looks like, or what where they are, what location they are, particularly if they've moved location from one scene into another. And basically, describing also what clothes they're wearing, and sometimes how they look. So usually at the end of scenes, you might get somebody who's got a particular look, and you might hear the audio describer saying, she has a pensive look on her face or something, or she's got tears in her eyes or something like that. So we like to invoke as much as possible and make it as inclusive as possible to allow the blind or visually impaired viewers to get a sense of what people look like and what's happening visually. And I think we do that to a good extent. So in terms of the transmission, as I say, it can be played out live, the audio description, just the audio description files on their own. So they're recorded as WAV files, but there is a particular format of file called ESEF, which is particular to this playout software. What will happen is within the software, when you're writing the AD, you can set parameters. The most important would be the fade and dip level. So the fade and dip level would tell you, okay, I want to fade the audio down, the program audio that you hear in the background. I want to fade that down by 15 dBs, let's say, while this piece of audio description is playing, while this recording is playing. And then the dip value would relate to how quickly it's going to fade down, and then how quickly it's going to fade back up. So that information is part of the file that we we play out for live. But as I say, we've kind of not walked away, but we've had problems in the past, and all broadcasters have this, where audio description may go out of sync during playback, and it may be because there's a different cut. So you may have an episode of I don't know, EastEnders, and we've had to make a cut on it for some reason, and when the audio description and plays against the media, maybe 10 minutes in, the audio description goes out of sync because of that cut.
Yes.
And it can be a bit troublesome to try and rectify, because you can't rectify it there and then on air. So what we do now is we do embed, what we call embedding the audio description. And simply put, that is a way that we still record a WAV file, and we mix down the program audio that we have in our software with the audio description. And then within the software that we use, we basically create 2 new audio tracks, and plop the audio description file, which is a premix of the program audio, with those dips and fades, and the audio description, and we embed it, or we write it into the master media TX file. So that means that it's going to be in sync all the time. And we have no worry about the file has been lost, or the file hasn't arrived, or anything like that. And if there's if there's a need to recut any of the media, at least if an editor cuts the media, he's also cutting the sound, which includes the audio description. So if the picture moves, the audio description moves with it. And it's becoming quite common now, this way of embedding audio description. It's common in Canada, and here in Ireland, really with us on RTE, and most European broadcasters are probably going to accept it and implement it in the next few years. But it doesn't interfere with what the viewer is hearing. So you may have a button on your remote control, or you may have to go into the settings, or you may have to go and tell your cue box, if you're using Sky, to turn on audio description. And what happens is that it basically flips over from the program audio that everybody would hear, and it engages 2 other tracks which have the same program audio, but if there's audio description, that audio description will play out on those audio tracks
as well.
So so it's a very intuitive way to work, and at least we know, we've had no real complaints from the viewers, because certainly in terms of audio description being out of sync or something, or ceasing to play, in the second half of a program or so, it's much tighter that way. So I don't know if that kind of answers what how we play it out, but
it does.
It's a long-winded way of describing.
Yeah, I tell you, actually, it's probably a good point at this moment in the show, that we have a little clip there, I suppose, just to give our listeners here a sample of audio description on the North Sea Connect program, which I think is currently running on RTE.
Yeah, so I think what you're going to play is one of the clips from a project I just finished for North Sea Connection, which is called Meet the Characters. And what we wanted to do was, again, be as inclusive as possible. And I thought, well, I saw something similar some time ago, which involved the actors reading out some scripts. So about what they look like and what kind of character they play. So what we did is more or less the same. Our audio describer for North Sea Connection, Kevin Sherwin, and I wrote a script for each actor to say. It's about a minute or so long, and it will describe what they look like and what their character is like. and it's a way of kind of introducing the character before you see the program, so you've a good idea of, in your head, if you can picture it, or a little bit more about these people. So we publish these on Friday across YouTube and across Player and social media. So yeah, they've gone down really well, and I would hope to do more.
Okay.
But, if you want to play one there, sure.
Yeah, we're going to play the North Sea Connection. So JP, gives a blaster.
Do that now.
North Sea Connection takes place in the tiny village of Roscommon, County Galway. Surrounded by the rugged beauty of Connemara, it's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and nothing much happens. Most of the time, anyway.
How's it going? I'm Ciara Kenny and I'm from Roscommon, County Galway. I'm white and in my 30s with a small frame and frizzy blonde hair, but to be honest, I'm not too bothered about how I look. My mum would probably like me to make more of an effort with all that, but it's just not me. I'm happiest when I'm out on my boat, the Loveen. My deckhand Shane and I catch fish. My brother Aidan sells it. And that's what keeps us all going. Occasionally we bring in the odd carton of cigarettes too as an extra, but sure, it's all very tame. Shane and I spend a lot of time together out in the Loveen and we're really close. Mum's always trying to suss out exactly how close, but I tend to just fob her off. Sure, it's nobody's business but our own. I suppose the other thing about me is that I really miss my dad. Don't get me wrong, I get on great with Mum's partner Bjorn, but sometimes a girl just needs her father. Still, I don't believe in moping about. Best to just get on with whatever needs doing.
Hi, I'm Shane.
It's great there.
Very
You
good.
wouldn't want to mess with Ciara.
No, definitely not. So that's I suppose an addition that you've brought in just for this series, is it?
Yeah, and I suppose just for those like myself who can't see the images, it's probably good to explain. So what we did, if my editor did what he was asked to do, which he did, I think, we have some shots of the opening sequence of the program, and that's one of our audio describers, Anya, describing. She's saying North Sea Connection is the small little village of blah blah blah. And then we go into this character, Ciara, and go over Ciara. We're showing shots of Ciara, who played by Lydia McGuinness. So we're showing stills of her on set and some portrait photographs, and there's a little bit of movement, I think, as well. There's a few zooms. So for those of you who can, maybe low vision or whatever, you can see some of the images, but you can also hear it. So I think it worked. I think it worked pretty well. We look forward to doing more of it for the other series if we can.
Excellent. No, I think like something like that at the start of the show is fantastic. It definitely does add weight to I suppose what you're going to be watching, and gets you in under the bonnet, listen to who the characters are and what they're about, and gives you a feel for how things are going to take off. So yeah, definitely a good addition. So just, I know you kind of touched on it there, just the process of producing the content with AD. So mostly it's recorded prior and it's kind of woven then into the original track of the program that's going to be broadcast. It
is, yes, yeah. So and it can depend how much time we have. I mean. North Sea is taking about 2 to 3 days to script and a day to record. So we were kind of very lucky with North Sea in that we got media for it in June, and we were able to work against that media. But unfortunately, we had some changes. So we just actually finished the sixth episode of this series. The audio description for it last week, and so we've done that. Project is done, and we're also working on another project now that we've just got the media for, which is called The Island.
Yes.
And it's on Sunday, at Sunday the 11th. I think it's this Sunday at 6:30. So sometimes we get things in early, sometimes we get them in quite late, but they're all pre-recorded. We will look at in the future. Part of my project is to also look at live audio description. So it has been done in the UK on a few special events, and we're looking into how we would go about it, and what content we would actually decide to audio describe. So that's kind of an ambition in mind. We'll try and get, hopefully we'll be able to do some of that next year if all going well. But it's technically it's a bit more challenging than pre-recorded material.
Just want to pick out one thing you mentioned there, Óran, was that you said it was about 2 or 3 days to script and about a day to record. Is that per episode?
Yeah, that's per episode. Yeah.
Wow.
So Kevin has to kind of view. Kevin Sherman, who's doing that series, would view the material. The process really is you kind of view the media, the program from start to end. You might make a few notes, and then you start going through scene by scene and decide, what can be written here, what's appropriate, what's relevant, and just go slowly, scene by scene, until you come to the end. And then you do, once you've scripted it, and you might look at it again, script again, and then you would do a recording. As I say, I'll do that. After that point, I'll do a script review, and then the guys would go into studio and record it then. So it can be, it can be a long process. It's about, as I said, 2, 3 days, 4 days for something like North Sea. For dramas, films, it could be 2 weeks to audio describe a film. But other things can take just a day. Stuff we do for RTH Junior. We've just finished a series called Kiva Can Do, and there's 13 episodes of those. And I think we got through them in about 4 days. They're about 11 minutes each, so they were quite quick to get through. And other things like we did the zoo. We've just finished. Also, Clara Murray has just finished doing the Rolling Stones. My Life as a Rolling Stone. There's 4 1-hours there that we've done. Just covering the Mick Jagger, Ronnie Wood, Keith. Who I've forgotten his second name, and Charlie Watts, the drummer, Keith Richards. Is it Keith Richards? I think I may have that wrong. But so that one, they're kind of fly on the wall documentaries. So they probably take about a day and a half to write, and about half a day to script and to record and embed. So it just depends on how much the content really.
Yeah, JP has another little clip he wants to play from the North Sea Connect there. So again, we might just give that a roll there, JP.
Great stuff. With its small dock jutting out into the water. Now inside, the gloveless hands are seen pouring a cup of tea.
Mainly good, decreasing moderate in showers. Forecasts for coasts from Dungarvan to Mizen Head and Valentia to Rossin Point. Wind.
The unseen figure turns off the radio. Her frizzy blonde hair is seen in the reflection of a framed photo of a smiling older man in fishing gear. Clutching her cup of tea, the woman steps out of her bungalow and peers into the distance. She's Ciara, of slim build with pale skin, wide eyes and a pointed nose. Over scenes of the rugged Galway coast, credits appear, starring Lydia McGuinness, Kerr Logan, Donal O'Haley, Ryan Donaldson, Claas Youngmark, Natalie Simpson, Dennis Conway, Stuart Graham and Sinead Cusack. Co-created and written by Mark Gregg, directed by Paul Murphy, audio described by Kevin Sherwin for RTE. A round yellow buoy is shown bobbing in the water far from the shore. Under the surface, ropes are connected to the buoy. Ciara stands gazing ahead wistfully. The ropes are attached to 5 black duffel bags. In large white letters, the title appears, North Sea Connection. Now the letters disintegrate, blowing away like white powder.
Very good. Very impressive. So
Yeah, he did a great job, Kevin. He's very good.
yeah, he is very good. Just if we could turn our attention to the app for the moment, Óran, I understand there's been some accessibility improvements introduced recently. Can you take us through some of these? So I understand there's a big button showing up on pages in the apps.
Yeah, we always like to gather feedback, and we had some feedback during the summer regarding the player and also audio description. And one of the things that was introduced is now a big AD button. So I think for those of you who can see, have some vision, it'll be of great benefit to be able to see whether there's audio description available on a show or not. And I think that's been a long time coming. There were admittedly, and I think the player team would admit this, that there were a lot of accessibility issues when we launched the new player some years ago. And I did some testing with the player team just to focus on what was working and what was not working. And I think that we've done. Sorry, my alarm keeps going off for some reason.
You're okay.
So they've done a great job in addressing some of those issues. And the other thing as well as there being an audio description button is if you're signed in, if you have an account.
Yes.
The other thing is that you can set audio description to be switched on automatically.
Wow.
So it won't matter whether you whether you need to sign in. Sorry, it won't matter whether you forget to switch it on. If you've done it during the sign in process, it'll always switch on, which is kind of, I suppose the way we all want to be with, my TV. Audio description is on all the time, so it made sense to do it with player as well. The other thing that we're working on with player is we have a little bit of difficulty at the moment in terms of broadcasting the AD when there is, for example, a boxed set. So you might see for some programs, if we launch a new series, the player team would like to release it after its first transmission, after episode 1 transmission, as a boxed set. The problem at the moment is that if it has audio description, the player have to wait for the linear transmission so that they can capture the audio description and then upload it to the player. So we are just finishing off a project at the moment that within RT related to scheduling and routing of media and that. And once that's done, the player team are going to look more into the embedded process of being able to pick up the audio description embedded versions once I let them know that we've done, series, the new series of Kane or whatever is there with audio description now. The idea would be, well, they could publish the whole series if they wanted, and
in one block.
That would have in one block, and all of that series would have audio description rather than having to wait for week after week after week. So that's going to be one of the big things to watch out for in next year, probably. Hopefully. Yeah.
That kind of dovetails with a question I have before I bring the boys in. I'm conscious I want to bring the boys in now in a few minutes. Like the future, what's the future then for the production of accessible content in 30? You kind of touched on it there. Being able to have these box sets up. Is there other bits in the pipeline that we can look forward to?
Well, I'm for me personally, I'm going to keep on going with the meet their character profiles if I can. There was that whole process took about 3 months, even though it's it's fairly quick. The whole piece is 9 minutes, but it's quite a bit of organization to get all the actors in contact with them and get them to agree to do it.
Yeah.
So I'll continue to do that if I can with any upcoming drama that we can. I'm also working on a radio advertisement as well, and what I also kind of want to work on is, and it may come into your next discussion, is a kind of a how-to guide. Particularly, it's peculiar that we're meeting today because the previous meeting I was at was with the EBU. One of the conversations we're bringing up now is the idea of accessibility signaling. So we're trying to find a way for all devices or apps to be able to be consistent, so that if you were in, let's say, for the sake of argument, let's say you're in a hotel and you've never been in the hotel before and you decide you want to watch some TV, how do you know if it's in a different country, how do you know which program has audio description? If you want the audio description. So we're trying to devise a way that the program content, would there be some metadata in the content in the media file that will trigger the TV set to either give you perhaps a vocal message, or if you can see a text message on the screen to say, there's audio description available for this. Would you like me to switch it on? And you may say yes, or you may have to press OK on your remote control or whatever. But that's one of the things that I'd like to see done. And for the moment, I'll try and work on just to get some different devices and work through and see if I can do some videos on how to actually switch the audio description on. Because we're producing, we'll produce about 10% this year. So it'd be nice to know, that people are watching it, and some people, they may not know that it's on. One of the other things we've done recently, probably since about November, is made sure that with any content that is being promoted, if it is audio described and there are promos during the commercial breaks, if it's audio described, we are putting a little tag at the end of it to say available with audio description, as well as it being in the EPG, the electronic program guide on your TV set. And it's also, that information is also available on the RT website. And we have a great social team that will push audio described content for us as well. And I try and put out stuff on my own Twitter account. So I think getting the information out there about what is audio described, what's coming up with audio description, and how to switch it on will be kind of the main things I'll be working on for the next year or so.
Brilliant. So busy times ahead. At this point, I want to bring in Joe and JP there, and maybe, I suppose,
this is the quick fire round, is it?
This is the quick fire round. So I'll bring in JP there first. JP.
Thanks a lot, Daniel, and it's really interesting. Óran, hearing about the developments in audio description within RTE. It's fantastic to hear all this today. I'm very interested, particularly in the process by which audio description is created. Question that came in for you during the show is from someone who's asked, if you don't mind answering this one. How have you found working throughout COVID? Have you been able to do it from home, or did you need to go into the office for much of it? I gather they're talking about, recording equipment, etc. Is that something that can be done? Is it all done in RTE, or can it be done to some degree at home?
Yeah. So what we did during COVID, we interviewed for our audio description panel in May of 2021, and we got them trained in August of 2021. Prior to that, though, we had a couple of audio describers working during the lockdown. So what they were doing, and same as myself, nobody could go into RT except for essential staff. But we used to, the software that we use is browser based. So we were able to set them up on an account on their personal machines, and we would, I would send them an MP4 video of the media, and they would work to that, and then record a rough recording for me to review. But we're kind of very lucky in the sense that we have 3 AD rooms, and there's nobody else is using the rooms. So when they're recording, they're on their own. They're they're quite isolated to a large extent, but they were able to go in and come out, go in and come out whenever they wanted. They didn't have to share any space with anybody else from any other areas. So it kind of worked out pretty well. They would come in, they would only come in to record. So they would only be in for a few hours, and we would make sure that the desks and that were all wiped down between each person. But it worked out pretty well, and it's kind of followed on outside beyond COVID. So there are a few of them a few of the panel that do like to write at home, and that's fine, that works well. But for quality of recording, we do record in studio because it's much better, and they need to work with the master media file, so they wouldn't be able to do that at home.
So Óran, am I right in saying that you're being paid to sit at home to watch movies and come up with a script?
Well, you could say that. Yeah, I'm being paid to watch TV, but I don't know how well you might like that if you're watching The Bourne Ultimatum at 2:00 on the 16th of December in the morning, because we already described 17 movies last Christmas ourselves, and we didn't know what movies were going to be on until about 3 weeks prior to really till Christmas Eve, to first transmission on Christmas Eve, and everybody was working very, very hard. So I was watching movies all right, but I was trying to hold my my ears up with matchsticks to keep listening.
So it's not all rosy.
It's not all rosy. It's really enjoyable to listen to the content and know, to be honest, that I suppose to a certain extent I am unique, or RT is unique in having myself, who is visually impaired, blind really, to review the scripts and to kind of say what I think works and doesn't work, and I hope I'm getting it right. But as far as I know, there's very few around Europe that broadcasters or audio describers that are seeking the advice of somebody who's blind or visually impaired. So I love it. But there are sometimes when you've been watching maybe 4 hours of media during the day, and you kind of think, oh, I don't want to watch anymore. Don't turn on the TV. I don't want to watch it because I've watched enough.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Can I check as well, actually, with so much content available on the Player app? So how do you guys determine and say, right, well, this is what we're going to implement audio description with, and maybe not this one? Is it done by ratings, by viewers, by demand, or on request, or how does that work?
Some of generally the way we work is, I know about 3 weeks out, maybe maybe 4 weeks out, what is going to be on in a particular week. So if we take North Sea Connection, I knew 4 weeks in advance, right? The TX date for North Sea Connection was going to be the 4th of September. And then I would go and chase what this program is about, what the content, what the storyline is about. And to be honest, once it's a drama, it more or less will get the thumbs up from me, because in drama there are usually plenty of gaps and dialogue and kind of silent moments. and establishing shots and looks of people, how they look, and they're annoyed or frustrated, or they're looking pensive, or they're not happy, whatever. Drama usually works really well for audio description. So I tend to look at what movies and drama we can audio describe first, what's coming up in any particular week, and then we will look at what documentaries might be on. So in the case of, for instance, My Life as a Rolling Stone, I had a look at it audibly and decided, yeah, there were enough gaps. There were the gaps were going to be quite quick and fast, but there were enough gaps to put in some information about who's about to speak, whether it be Larry Clapton or whoever is going to Jack Nicklaus, whoever is going to speak next. There is enough room, so we should probably audio describe this. And then, but it really is more relevant to can we do enough audio description for this show, and is it going to be relevant? I mean, the program we're working on at the moment for Sunday night has got about 120 descriptions. If it's got less than 100 descriptions, I generally, we kind of say, well, no, maybe not. Maybe let's look at something else, because less than 100 descriptions could be a huge amount of names rather than actually what's happening on the screen. And actually in some cases, a documentary, we don't always need to describe a documentary. Documentaries can sometimes roll along on their own, and you can work out what's going on with the AD. But I suppose we're also asked because North Sea Connection, for example, is a co-production between RT and a broadcaster in Sweden. So we were asked to provide the audio description, to create the audio description for that. So if a program is BAI funded through the Sound and Vision Fund from the BAI, they must do two things. They must always provide subtitling, a subtitle file, to RT, and they must either provide ISL, Irish Sign Language, or audio description. And if they can't, if they don't have a company that they can use for audio description, they'll usually contact me and tell me, we've got a show that we're going to be delivering to RT in 3 months' time, and we have the media for it probably in 2 months' time. Could you audio describe it? So we have a look at it, see is it suitable? Yeah, and we work on that kind of basis. So it's really what's coming up in the schedule and what would work well for audio if it was audio described, and what doesn't. So I'm afraid I'll take the hit for all of that.
Okay. Another question has come in from one of our listeners. Our TV provider is Virgin. How do I use AD on it? I've lost my vision 3 years ago and would really benefit from it. I've not watched it since. And is it available for rugby? So I think that maybe ties in with the live audio description.
Yeah. So Virgin, I don't have Virgin at home, so I can't properly say, but I think there's going to be, you're going to need a bit of sighted help to do this. But if you download the Virgin app on your phone, I'm reliably informed that once you've got the Virgin app on your phone, you can navigate your TV with the Virgin app, and you can also switch on the audio description from within the Virgin app itself.
Oh wow! That's good.
So, and it will also tell you when you look at the TV guide, the Virgin app, the EPG, the electronic program guide, will also tell you what's coming up with audio description, and you can also see, I'm just flicking through the channels. This one says it has audio description, and you can, I think you can enable it to be on all the time or just once. There are those options. But I think from what I also understand, I think there might be a slight issue with actually loading the app and setting up the app, and you may need some sighted assistance to do that. But I do know somebody, a good friend of mine, who is using the Virgin app all the time to drive his TV, and he's had no problems in relation to audio description. The only caveat I would say is just be careful about audio description and the BBC, because it seems that there seems to be a little problem with the BBC. where you might see there might be audio description available on the BBC, but it may not be available in our jurisdiction. It depends where they're feeding it from, and they're not always feeding it from London. So you may think, oh, I've switched the audio description on, I switched it off, and I switched it on. There's nothing there. The BBC have there's a slight quirk there with the BBC and the audio description, but other channels should be fine, including your own. Yeah.
Hi Daniel, can I come in there for
Joe? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hear you on the BBC problems. There is a BBC One Northern Ireland, I think it comes in, and there's no audio description on it for the likes of people are into it, will say soaps, EastEnders, things like that. But if you go to channel 954, it'll bring in BBC London. So if you have Sky Q or Sky Plus, just press 954 on your remote. BBC London feed comes in, and the audio description appears on that one. Just thought I'd pass on that because
handy tip, Joe. Thanks very much.
Found it out myself one day by accident, but also, you were mentioning earlier on about tones. I suppose you're hoping to bring it in as mainstream. All TVs might have a tone to let you know there's going to be audio description on, or not even a tone or a message. So, some way of letting a blind person know there's going to be audio description. But the Sky there has, you're probably aware of it already. When you switch channels with your up and down channel button, if the audio description is available, you will get a beep or an audible tone. For example, channel 4 nearly always has audio description, and on a lot of their programs you'll hear, when you switch to channel 4, you'll hear a beep to let you know that program has audio description, so that's just a couple of tips for maybe people, and there's a good percentage of the people in this country are using Sky, the Sky service. It's a good. Yeah,
that feature is great, but it just and it was our own, to a certain extent, it was our own fault. But and I have noticed that on other channels, sometimes you won't hear the tone, but there is audio description. So, for instance, we had Spectre, the film Spectre on Saturday night was audio described, but unfortunately, whatever technical quirk there was, it didn't say that the EPG didn't say it had audio description. Therefore, when you switched to RTE on 9:30 on Saturday night, the film was playing and the audio description was playing, but there was no audible bip to indicate that. So I think we need to find a better solution that within the actual media itself, rather than relying on something like the EPG or the Q box, because I think the EPG, the Q box is possibly feeding, generating that tone. It sees, oh, there's AD here, so I have to, beep when the channel is changed. So I think we in general we need something, because better, everybody doesn't have a Skybox, and I think what they've done is brilliant, and their voice guidance is great, but we need a global solution for audio description for everyone.
Yeah, it's right. You're right. It is good that they're showing the way and they're showing good example to other companies, but it has to be more mainstream.
Yeah, definitely echo those sentiments, Joe. So any more on the questions from JP?
That's it for me. I'm off now to watch North Sea Connection tonight.
Yeah, I think we're all tempted from the previews.
You should go back. I mean, I'm plugging it. We've done an awful lot of drama this year, and like available on the player will be not only North Sea Connection, but Harry Wild recently, Horse Country, The Newsreader, Fires, 5 Bedrooms. There are some Australian programs that we got. There's another series called The Royal Flying Doctors. So, and it's all available with AD on the player. So you don't have to watch it live. If you wait, you will get it on the player.
Great stuff. Also, I know you're picking the audio description and probably reviewing it and making the choices on the audio description. Do you ever put it out there to a panel of blind people, or ever send surveys out to see?
Oh, we do.
Is this working? Is this working?
Yeah, we do. We had a couple of feedback sessions. One I think in June, and then at the end of July, and then we always have other meetings throughout the year. So we're constantly looking for feedback, and happy to engage. But absolutely, it's not my, although I think maybe it is my decision, and I'll take the hit for it. Our AD panel and our subtitling, my subtitling colleagues also will say, you should maybe think about doing this. And so, we're happy to take feedback.
Don't ever feel we take it for granted. I think it's an amazing service, because, I mean, there is a lot of dramas out there that I suppose we might have tried to follow in the past. You could follow them to a degree, obviously, but I suppose for those ones like Love Hate, remember the first 4 episodes or series didn't have audio description.
It didn't, yeah.
And I mean, there's all those psycho silence parts. You don't know what's going on. And then it made a real big difference in series 5. I suppose it's really made it more enjoyable, and you could actually get involved and chat with your friends about the series. You know what I mean? And same with a couple of other things like Normal People and that kind of.
Yeah, we might come back to that once we can establish that the player can pick up the audio described version, the embedded audio described version. I'll look at that again to see if we can do it during some downtime. We will have a look at that again. But right now we're kind of focused on what's coming up in a few weeks, and we've got a load of Christmas movies as well to look at.
I'm more making the point of how enjoyable audio description was, compared to without having it. You know what I mean?
Without having it, yeah.
It kind of just shows how much of a big difference it makes to a program.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. And just a quick question for me. I'm conscious you have to head off, Óran.
I'm going to meeting about audio description next.
If a program comes in, let's say from America or Britain or Australia even, and Canada, any of the Anglosphere countries, and does it come with audio description on it? Are we reinventing the wheel, or are we going with the audio description that comes with it?
No, it's pretty safe to say that no program that we would transmit comes with the audio description. Which is a pity, and it's I think it's more of a global conversation that needs to be had. So, for instance, we didn't, for the newsreader and fires and Royal Flying Doctors. We produced the audio description ourselves because we couldn't access the audio description. Well, in two of the cases, there was no AD for the content. So, I mean, we do buy in some audio description. We do buy in audio description for some of the movies, some of the repeated movies that we would see. So, for instance, Spectre on Sunday night or Saturday night was a bought-in film from the UK. And we do that, but and the reason we kind of do that is because we prefer to kind of stick with use our panel to describe Irish content first. But if we then have room to audio describe more content, and that content is coming in from Australia or the US or wherever, and we can, it warrants audio description, we will do it. But there is kind of a push from us and some of our focus groups and the BAI that Irish content should be audio described. So that's kind of where we look first, and then I will look at other programs. For example, like the Rolling Stone program, which is going to go out on air shortly, and we've done a few Irish films recently as well. We just finished a couple that are going to be audio described and transmitted in September. So yeah, we do buy in, but again, it just depends. To be honest, it depends also on the quality, and I'm kind of a sticker for quality, so we might look at it and listen to it, and I might say I think we can do better. I think we can do better. So if we have the time, let's do it ourselves.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Can I make a point on quality there? As I said before, you said it earlier about things being in sync. Sometimes you listen to AD on programs, the AD itself can be very low, and then speakers on the actual program itself can be very high, and then it's hard to get the volume right on the TV. That can be very annoying, I suppose, at times, you know.
Yeah, it is, and I'm also involved with another colleague of mine, and the EBU, to standardize the fade and the dip levels, which I was talking about earlier on. So we're trying to devise a system where the software would analyze the program audio, and at every particular point. And if you marked an in and marked an out, and you said, I'm going to audio describe these 8 seconds of media, we're trying to look at a system where it will analyze the loudness at that point, and it will automatically dip by the correct level, so that it won't be the program audio won't be too loud, and the audio description won't be too low. So we're hoping to do that and put it out as a set of standards that the European broadcasters certainly would follow. So that's another project we're hoping to kind of get more data. Of course, COVID has stopped everything in the last 2 years, so we haven't been able to do much, but we hopefully get some standards written up towards perhaps the middle to end of next year on that.
Excellent. Okay, Óran, I tell you, that has been a fascinating discussion, and when you think of audio description, you probably don't get your full feel for what goes on in the background, and I think you've given us an absolutely wonderful insight into the whole world of audio description, and want to thank you ever so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and very interesting having heard all that, and very best wishes going forward with the future. And you sound like what you have planned and what looks like coming down the tracks is very exciting stuff indeed. So we want to thank you and wish you the very best on your endeavours going forward.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and thank you very much for the invite. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, as we too have.
Thanks, Óran.
Well, I'll go to my next meeting, my next audio description meeting.
Óran, best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, guys, that was Óran O'Neill there, who was great to join us on today's Talking Technology show to tell us all about the audio description and the RTE player app. And so you'll agree, as I said, it's a fascinating story. So do listen back, and if you have any comments, anything that you want to relay to Óran or even ourselves here, the team, don't forget to drop us an email. It's labs@ncbi.ie. So moving forward then, we just have a little bit of tech news to bring you, and it's an issue that has probably popped up on everyone's Windows-based computer over the weekend. And Windows Defender was reporting that there was threats found, and sometimes if you went into it, you were getting a notification if you went into it and then there was no threats found, or there was one telling you that there was a Win32 Hive ZY. All sounds crazy stuff, but it's nothing to be worried about. What happened was late last week, Microsoft, in their virus definitions update, which automatically get installed, they were coming across something in Chrome that they thought was a threat, but wasn't. So it was a false positive. Good news is on Monday morning, they released a fix for this, an automatic update to Microsoft Windows Defender. And if that fix has got installed by now, the notifications should have gone away. If not, it's no harm to go to your Windows Update and run an update just to get the latest virus definitions into your Windows Defender program, and that'll stop those annoying pop-ups. So, yeah, that was an interesting one. Did that affect you at all, JP or Joe, over the weekend? Did you notice it?
No, it's crisis averted anyway with that.
Yeah.
I didn't get the threats. I did get a message to say update Windows Defender. So hopefully I'm safe for now.
Yeah. No, I got a few myself there on Saturday. I was doing a little bit of work on the computer, and every time I turned it on, or let's say I left it and I came back and I had been in sleep and I woke it up and the notifications popped up, threats found, and I was clicking on them. Next thing in comes no threats found, and I was like, what is going on here? I thought I was going crazy, but I wasn't. So that was what was happening.
Yeah. While we're on tech news, maybe, and we were talking about the subject of audio description.
Yes.
As well. I was just going to mention about turning on audio description universally on your Apple device.
Yeah.
Will I mention that for
you
today?
Can. You can indeed, keeping in team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have my iPhone here beside me, and if we open settings, and then we
display and brightness button,
and then we're going to go to accessibility.
General. Display home screen accessibility.
I'm going to double tap there. If your
Accessibility
voiceover
features
use
help
your
you
voice,
customize your iPhone to your individual need. Vision.
I'm going to flick over until here audio description.
Voiceover. Up. Zoom. Off. Display and text size. Motion. Button. Spoken content. Button. Audio descriptions. On.
There we are. It's already on my phone, but if it wasn't on your phone, you double tap there.
Audio descriptions. On.
And you flick it
off,
and then back on, and I can flick to the right to read the description about it.
When available, automatically play audio descriptions.
Excellent.
When available.
So anytime I open an app like Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, or even in YouTube, an audio description is available. I don't have to turn it on in app; it'll be on automatically, and that program will play audio description.
So for all the world, Joe, it's like a big master switch for audio description.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's available on all Apple devices, so that, including your Apple TV set-top box. So that's a handy one for people that have an iPhone. Also, it is similar to nearly all other devices. You will find in the same places. So if you're on a Skybox, again, accessibility, audio description. So settings, accessibility, audio description. Same with your Amazon Fire Stick. And
I think Android doesn't have it.
Android doesn't seem to have it. I didn't see it in the Google TV when I looked today. But if you are signed up to Netflix and you already have audio description turned on in your Netflix profile, it will come on automatically in the Google TV. And the same with Disney Plus and Apple TV, them kind of things. So they're just a tip to look out for when you're you want to turn on an audio description. Makes a big change from 20 years ago when we'd have our DVDs and you'd have to get a system to turn on your audio description in your Blu-ray or DVD player, that kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah. And
So,
then you hope the person that was assisting you was technically able to navigate the remote and get through the menus and very convoluted back in the day.
The DVD player is hidden somewhere in some menu.
Buried in it.
Yeah, buried in the menu. Yeah, so yeah, we've moved on a lot since then.
We have.
We're even talking about live audio description at this stage, which is amazing.
It is, absolutely, and like it'd be great if things like that start coming into football matches, rugby matches, and hurling and football. It'd be fantastic. So it would. Okay, so that's our lineup today of tech news, which kindly brings us to the end of our show for this episode. But just before we go, we'll give you our support line. So our technology support line is free phone 1-800-911-110, or alternatively, you can email labs@ncbi.ie. And for more generous support, you can also free phone NCBI. It's 1-800-911-250, or drop us an email to info@ncbi.ie. So that's how you can get in touch with us. And if you'd like to support our services, please go along and visit donate.ncbi.ie. That's donate.ncbi.ie, and you can donate our services there. Coming up on our future shows, we will be joined by Sarah Herlinger, Apple's Senior Director of Global Accessibility and Policy Initiatives, developments in accessibility astronomy with guest Jake Noel Starr. And we have Auth0 identity provider and its accessibility with Vertioki. I think I pronounced that correctly, hopefully. And they'll all be in our upcoming shows, and our next show will be broadcast on Tuesday, the 20th of September 2022. So we hope you can join us then. And don't forget, in the meantime, before our next show, you can subscribe to our NCBI technology newsletter. You can sign up online at www.ncbi.ie, or you can drop an email to labs@ncbi.ie, and you can get our weekly technology newsletter dropped into your inbox. So that's it for this week's show. We want to thank you very much for listening. I want to thank our guest, Óran O'Neill, and our panelists, JP Corcoran and Joe Lonergan. And for myself, Daniel Dunn, we'll see you all next time. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with NCBI Labs. If you would like to support our show, you can visit donate.ncbi.ie. The NCBI Labs Talking Technology podcast is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in the provision of digital accessibility services.